Blasick, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. We're super excited to talk to you. You've got so much amazing stuff coming up. Not only are you on a hit Peacock series, right, but you've got a movie coming up with Jamie Foxx that's going to be like the cast on that thing is absolutely amazing. We recently saw that you were at this guy's super jealous and stoked for you. He's a huge fan of Bert and Machine, and we saw that you were at the premiere for that, so that was pretty awesome. So I know we're definitely going to talk to you about that for just a little bit, but what we like to do just to kind of get started is for anybody that might not be familiar with you and your work, talk about how you got started a little bit. I know because you're like a heavy hitter in a lot of things, modeling, singing, acting, so was entertainment or a focus in entertainment always the dream? You knew this is what I was going to do, or did you kind of fall into it? Talk about that. How'd you get started?
Well, thank you so much for saying, first of all, that it's like Paul T. Goldman's a hit show. I love the sound of that. Actually, entertainment was kind of like, I always was doing this my whole life. I started doing theater when I was like little. And that's why actually I think like I fell in love with acting. I think my first like stage performance was when I was like I think 6 or something. People ask, like teacher asked if you would like to be, in a play or something. And she gave me this giant monologue, and she sent me home. And my grandmother, she was a teacher, and I memorized and realized that I actually can memorize really fast, because next day I showed up. I'm like, I'm ready. She's like, I gave you this giant monologue, and I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay. So, and this when I discovered that I can memorize. Like, I did not know it was fast. It's just like I was like, but she told me that it's fast. And then I was just performing, and I remember like, I just felt this connection to the audience, and I just absolutely loved that connection. It was just so magical to me. And I was very shy. I mean, I'm still very shy. I just like have these two sides of me. and that part, like, it was really amazing. That it's like you can just be something that I did not know I can be. Like, I'm just like this shy person, and suddenly like I'm like in front of people and connecting with people. And then this first play I did, it was like a guy from my school that I was horrified of him, like seriously horrified. I thought he was so mean. And in the play I was doing like, I was his teacher, like superior, and I was telling him something to do. And I was like, how am I supposed to do that? It's like, I'm just seriously, even like one glance I was like melting. And suddenly like I realized that on a stage I can be like anything like I choose to be. And that was like so empowering for me, like this whole combination together. And then I like, I grew up, and I keep doing dancing and theater and gymnastics. But like acting, it was such a like, crazy dream. It was not even like in consideration. And I went to university. I got like a master's degree in economics. Mm-hmm. Which feels like a very strange to me now. But like I was actually really good in math. And and it's like, and then I met my husband now, and I moved to LA, and it's like, and here I was like, okay, what can I do? And I started doing some modeling, mm-hmm. And then acting kind of like, I got this first show, it was like on a, like recurring. I mean, people say this is freaking amazing. I was like, I don't know, it seems like fun. And then after that, I just started doing more acting classes, and I just totally fell in love with acting. And yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. There's so much to unpackage. And we should say, like, everybody listening is probably saying, yes, accent. She clearly came over to America. So tell everybody where you're from. It's Ukraine, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm originally from Ukraine, and and I came to America, and because of what's going on in Ukraine, I would like to say a few words about this. Actually, my husband and I, we do have a band, and it's just like, I mean, this sounds very weird, but anyway, my parents came here this year as refugees. My sister came here 3 years ago, just completely randomly. She met a guy, so I mean, because of this tragedy, we kind of ended up all in one place, and I still have a lot of friends, and an uncle back in Ukraine, and it's like one particular guy that I was like in university with. He's fighting now in front lines, and he sends me those crazy videos of, they just gave him a new weapon that it's like super heavy, and it's like, it is like very surreal to live in this world where we like talk about entertainment, and I go to red carpets, and it's like all fun and jokes, and then suddenly you see this other side of the world who have like completely different life now, and they like really like just seriously like fighting for their lives. And it's like every day, it's like if this guy like checks my story, it means that he's alive. I mean, it's like absolutely freaking insane. And where I was going with the band, we have a band. It just sounded so weird. And a recent song that we released is called "Ukraine Will Prevail." So, you know, when we perform, I do love to, you know, spread this message and kind of put the, you know, spirit of Ukraine out there.
Well, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, first of all, because I know it's very emotional and there's a lot going on and a lot, you know, that the world is kind of not paying attention to, and we need people to talk about it and get it out there. And you know, if the one bright spot in that you said there is that, you know, for whatever reasons, your family is together. So within everything that's going on, one bright spot is that you are all together with your family, and that's a great thing. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of jump back to when you were talking about how you got started was, I love that as a shy person, right? That's the beauty of art. It allows you to be free and be open and express yourself in a way that you might not feel comfortable expressing yourself, not through art, right? Here's this shy girl you don't know, but then you get on stage and you're like, hey, I can do this. And it's so amazing the power that art has, right?
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Actually, you know, right now I see my sister's journey. She just joined some like dancing classes, and it's like sexy dances in high heels. And you know, she has a job as a manager of like beauty salons, and here she is like, you know, doing the sexy dancing. And it's like, before she may judge like, you know, whatever this art form is, but right now I see she's like, well, this is just for she's like, this is a part of expression, this is who I am. And we just like celebrated Memorial Day weekend, and her friend is like, oh my gosh, this is so sexy, how can you show to your parents like this, something like that. And she's like, well, this is expression, this is my art. So I just see her kind of transforming into this like kind of, yes, this is who we are as humans, and this is a part of like what my art is all about. So I think it is a beautiful process. It's kind of accepting who we are and expressing this. And I think this is the most beautiful thing, that when you like
awesome.
Freedom enough to express what's inside of you.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Completely agree. And it's a beautiful thing too, because a lot of people, they don't go out and try things. So it's awesome to hear that you and your family and your sisters they're all trying to find themselves in different forms of expression, which is very important, because if you stay inside of your little bubble and aren't able to experiment with different things, that sometimes leads to unhappiness and bad mental health. So, and mental health is such a big thing for us, and we've been talking about it a lot. So in an industry that, you know, is a lot of rejection or selection and not rejection. So how do you keep yourself happy and keep moving forward and keep going on auditions even when you don't necessarily get a call back? How do you keep yourself moving forward?
Well, that's actually, it's very nice that you're talking about mental health, because that's something that to say that I struggle with is like saying nothing. I definitely I had like a major meltdown, and I felt very lost, and I felt like when you're going through this, it's like it's impossible to fix it immediately, and it's like it's very hard to get help. Like, and I remember like I was like really bad, and I was trying to find some help, and I was calling some kind of like line, and it's like, oh, is it suicide line? It's like, no, it's not suicide line. Like, I don't want a suicide line. I want to like find help. But like when you're in this crisis, it's very hard to get like above this like state of crisis. And I think that is very important to talk about preventative health and preventative mental health. And because of my crisis, I started doing like therapy, and that helped me huge. Like that just like definitely changed my life, and like for better. It's like I do therapy now a little bit more than a year, and my therapist said that I'm a different person now. But it is nice to just to kind of understand what is all this anxiety is coming from. And it is a crazy industry, and just like have a little bit different look at it. Like, you know, don't compare yourself to others. Like we all have our past, and it's like I just want to be a little bit better than me yesterday. And even if I'm not a little bit better, like if I'm worse than yesterday, it's still like there's another day. So I just try to take it like one day at a time and just really enjoy the creative journey. And yeah, and therapy was like a huge, and it's like meditation, therapy. It's like I think exercise. It's like that's all very, very important, and especially with a war in the background. It's like just seeing my parents going through, what they're going through. It's like it just left everything behind, and I don't know. Nobody knows if they will be back or will it be back. What is it going to be even left there?
Right.
Just to see, like, we as humans go through all these things, and I think it's very important to talk about this and support each other. And I think that's very beautiful that you're talking about this.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And, we talk all the time about how life and admitting that we are all human. We all go through struggles. We all have these issues, and how that plays back into the art, because I feel like sometimes the best presentations that we get, the best performances that we get are when they're being drawn upon from real life, from events that you've gone through. When you're playing someone in deep sorrow, when you're playing someone that's elated with great happiness, you're pulling from experiences of life that you've gone through. And without that, without going through struggles or without going through the high and lows, I feel like you lack the ability to bring that into performance if you haven't experienced those type things. And so, to be able to acknowledge that we're all human, we all have these paths, and then to be able to transform that, because we talk also all the time about how we think that the easiest way to start these conversations, to have these talks that are so necessary, is through art. It's difficult to sit down and just say, we're going to talk about this difficult situation, okay? But if you're talking about it because you just watched a movie that dealt with it, or a television show where somebody's going through it, that's much easier to start that conversation than it is to just sit in a room and go, let's talk, right? So art is so important to help get the message out about mental health and where we're at, and share those bonds, right?
Yes, I mean, it is absolutely incredible, and it's so true that it's like people get like closed off, and then it's like scared to share, and then you watch like a show, and it's like it is shared experience. That's what it's all about, yeah. And we kind of like open up, and we relate, and yeah, and then the conversation starts, and it's like absolutely amazing.
Absolutely,
it really is, and something that I deal with some anxiety and some depression sometimes, and to get out of that hump, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I watch a lot of like stand-up comedy, because that is some sort of expression for me to loosen up and to just be able to not think about life as, as deep as I do sometimes, but it helps me, just focus my attention on different things. And somebody who has really helped me with that is actually Bert Kreischer, who you went and saw his movie, The Machine, and went to the premiere and got to meet him. I saw you took a picture with him, so I thought that was a really cool experience. But his podcast with Tom Segura, Two Bears, One Cave, it's honestly like, it's just like an hour of fun time where I feel like, I'm just sitting in a room with guys, just shooting the shit, talking, having fun, and just laughing, talking about like fun experiences. So I'm super jealous of you being able to go to that premiere. And I mean, it just looked like a whole lot of fun. I saw you had so much stuff set up, like axe throwing and like all this different stuff. So how was that experience?
I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, first of all, just watching comedians, it is like such a healing process, because like they do talk about real issues, but in like a fun way. So kind of like don't take ourselves so seriously. It's not just like, oh, our life is like we're doomed.
Exactly.
We can take like like it's fun. It's like I always say like, oh, God has a sense of humor, because he does.
Right.
Because we're in these ridiculous situations all the time. And meeting Bert, I mean, he was just so great. Like, and it's like seeing like how much heart he has, and how special that was for him.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, oh, I was crying today a lot. And I saw he was not just saying this. It was like very emotional celebration for him. And it was like such a premiere that like this was my first time that I've been at the premiere that they blocked the whole block.
Oh, nice.
It's like people saying there is like never premiere like that you can play games. And it's like, it was just such a fun, like the whole vibe was like such a fun and friendly, and celebratory, and immediate like and Bert did this whole comedy for streaming, like they were like doing it as a streaming premiere,
Right.
and he was like fun to see him in person doing his stand-up, and he was absolutely funny and incredible. And I have actually a fun story about this whole premiere. So I was getting ready, and I was like doing my makeup, and I was like thinking, oh, like let me Google like who directed the movie actually.
Right.
And I'm like Googling it, and I was like, oh, Peter Atencio. I was like, I worked with Peter.
Right.
And I did an episode of Jean-Claude Van Johnson with Peter.
Yes.
And on Hulu. And I remember, like, I was just thinking, I want to work with Peter again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just need to somehow reach out or something. And then it's just like, pandemic happened, so nothing happened. And I was like, wow, I work with Peter. So I was like, in my mind, I was like doing my makeup, and I was thinking, okay, how am I supposed to remind him really fast and don't sound desperate?
Right.
That we work together. And like, because it was like, just like, basically I worked like 2 days. So I was like, I don't know if he remembers me. So like, I mean, it was just like he had the whole series, and it's like how I was supposed to, like, it sounds like normal, like not desperate. So I'm like preparing. So I showed up at the premiere, and it's like fun. Like, yeah, like you said, people throwing axes, like golfing. It was like absolutely fun. And then they see Peter, and it's like crowd of people in front of us. I was like, okay, here's my chance to say hello to Peter. So I'm like, start walking towards him, and like with my speeches, and he's like, Natasha. And I was like, he knows my name. And he's like, I was just thinking about you. I was like, what? He's like, I was like in Bulgaria shooting a movie, and I saw your show that you're on Goldman, and you were amazing on it. I was like, seriously, I was felt like I'm just gonna like just fall on the ground,
right?
Kind of like a puddle of happiness. It was like that meaningful to me that he actually saw something that remembers my name. And it was so nice. And then he told me like he would like me to be in his next movie that he's shooting in Bulgaria. So I'm like crossing everything that I have right now. That is going to happen. And but like, yeah, and it's just like, so like then I watched the movie, and it was like, first, then I was like thinking about the movie. I was like, okay, there's like a Russian story,
right? And
like Ukrainian now, every time I hear Russian, I'm just like, I have this triggering.
Yeah,
it's like, that's what it is. But watching movie, I was like, okay, this was like so much fun. It was just such a like therapeutic, almost experience.
Yes.
He put like this really crazy. Physical comedy with like very dark, but it's like super fun. So was like so much laughter and so much release of this like our like whatever was going on inside,
right?
Of, like some like not so good things. It's just all released, and then it's like relationship with Bert with his dad that was very beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's like in a very fun way, like was laughed at, and it's just like they end the bond was so beautiful. So there was so many wonderful things like in this movie. It was like absolutely like I just think everybody should just watch it because it's just such a ride.
Oh my goodness!
Like, and it's just and so Bert was like, I did not know his like theatrical work before, but he was so funny. But then it's like he brought so much heart into this.
Yeah,
it was like absolutely beautiful work. It was just incredible to see, and him celebrating it, and everybody's like around. It was just such a joyful. It's like I was just so happy to be a part of that premiere. So,
I love so much about what you said there because starting off with comedians are great because they deal with real issues and everything, but they also like, let's not take ourselves too seriously, right? Because we can't dive in and get all, we've got to look back and just settle and go, hey, this is life. Let's not be too serious about it. Let's not get over dramatic about it. It is what it is. So I love that. I also love that. I think there's a stigma or this misunderstanding that Hollywood is this like giant community and there's filled with all these, but it's really small and everybody knows everybody. So I love that you looked it up and you're like, oh my gosh, the director, I know him and he knows me kind of. That's great because I really do. And important for all the up and comers out there to realize just how small the community actually is. And so how you are on set or how you present yourself is very important, because this person knows this person who knows this person, and if you're a bad experience here, they're going to hear about it, or if you're a great experience, they're going to hear about it, and that's really important for, I think, the up-and-comers to know. And nice transition into Paul T. Goldman, because you said, talk about something that's like crazy and a fun look and doesn't take itself too seriously. This is a very odd show with just like this crazy storyline. Talk about that, and congratulations because you do an amazing job on that show. Clearly referenced by your friend saying you do an amazing job. I want you in my next movie. So, but talk about the experience on that show and what it's like, because it is out there. Talk about your character and what that's like.
It's an odd show, and the interesting experience about that show that I auditioned, and I had like the scenes, and so it was scripted all, and then I show up on a set and I see cameras everywhere, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? And and I look at the call sheet and I see this guy Paul T. Goldman is a star of the show, and I'm like, Googled him, and I was like, I don't know, he's a writer. It's like, okay, so. I meet him next to the trailer, and we start talking, and then somebody comes and it's like, do not talk to him off the camera. I was like, okay. The first time. So it's kind of like, so it was like very kind of like, I didn't even know what to think. It's like, I don't know what's going on, because like it's supposed to be like this like scripted show, but then it's just like, what's going on? And then we start filming, and I see like, it just like stops and like asks like you personal questions, and you kind of like, I was like, oh, so we filming everything. And so it's like, okay. So, and that was like the first day. This is when, actually, first of all, it's like, I love the part because it was like based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I am a mail order bride in reality. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm playing myself. So, and then I did share this story with Jason, director, and he was very excited. He's like, oh, we did not know about that. So this is my first day. I kind of was like, oh, okay. So we go in like a very interesting way. And so until the end, I had no idea what is like the actually main storyline and what is we're shooting. And I just saw that like we're shooting everything. Mm-hmm. And actually just I talked to First ID, because the show is submitted for your consideration. Mm-hmm. And like I'm absolutely grateful. So I just went to this screening, and I talked to First ID Jason, and he said he was asking Jason, director, I said like, so what is the main storyline? Is it like scripted or is it unscripted? Right. And he's like, oh. So like only at the premiere I actually saw the full picture, but like during the filming I did become friends with Paul, and it's like we did get connected on the kind of like, Paul is a dreamer, and I really love that about him. I mean, it's like that's connects in me, this like part of dreaming, and he's into meditation, and so we connected on that, and he does have very beautiful, bright spirit. But then it's like I watched the show, and especially episode 4, and it's like then you see what actually Paul did. It did take, I was like, wow. It's like that was like seriously stuff that it was hard for me to step over. And I'm thinking, is this guy my friend? Like, who is this person?
Yeah.
It was like really dark stuff. Then it's like it's something that. Like that he wrote the letter and like totally faked it. It was just some very like, and it's like he was so sweet to me, but it's like attitude towards women. So there's a lot of things that Jason brought up to light, kind of for all of us to reflect on, and not only Paul's behavior, but all of us. It's just happens that we see Paul's life under a microscope, but I think it's like nobody's perfect. And seeing Paul's reaction to this, and how when he got caught, how this human reaction, how is it like he's trying to wiggle out, and then it's like accepting the end. And I thought that was very beautifully done. The end of the show, that it's like his acceptance that he's human, and it's like, yes, it's like he made this mistake, but hopefully he will grow out of that, I thought it was like such a beautiful, it's such an odd show, but such a beautiful storytelling. I think it's a brilliant storytelling. And seeing that Jason and Paul became such a great friends, they were filming it for 10 years, like this whole thing. And it's like for Jason to show not such a good side of Paul, and this conversation at the end where they like then they facing each other, that was just such a beautiful, I don't know, this beautiful moment. And for me, like I had a lot of, we talked about mental health. I had a lot of like issues with my mother. Like now we like kind of healed and I feel healing. But seeing Paul and his family and his dad and seeing what is this all rooted in, like this never was accepted by his dad. And that's why that's what for me that I took from the show. That's why the whole life he was trying to kind of like be accepted by his dad. And that's such a, like, that brought so much tears in my eyes. And I was watching it. Then he kind of like leaned and sat on the ground in front of his dad, kind of like begging for this acceptance. And the dad was still not give him. And I don't think not because he doesn't love him, but that's his different love language or something. But the whole begging and like the whole show, I think it was kind of like him trying to prove like, dad, this, that. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, I think it's such a fascinating psychological study, like of Paul's characters, like people around him. I just like, yeah, it's like absolutely brilliant.
I love that because it's like it's a mirror to society, right? I mean, basically where you're putting a mirror up and just like, look, this is what is happening in certain people's stories. So this needs to be talked about so we can bring more light to it so we can change. Because that's very important because not a lot of people even know they're doing something wrong until somebody calls them out on it. So that's the biggest thing. So to be able to show that in this type of way, we always say the best form of education is through entertainment because that's how people realize, okay, I'm doing something exactly like that and this is how people are reacting about it. So it's good to have that some sort of clarity, I guess, so you can continue moving forward and continue growing as a human being. But I mean, that's what it's all about. It's very important. But I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and just getting crazy with us and just talking about your story because it's so important. I feel like a lot of up and comers are really going to enjoy it. And I just, you know, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I mean, if you needed to have a crazy talk, just call in.
Yeah.
Girl, I honestly like really enjoy talking to you guys. You are really amazing, and thank you again for bringing these important topics. And like, yeah, it's like art and expression, and who we are as human beings. It should be discussed. It shouldn't be like storage somewhere and then it comes up in a crazy ways. I think this is like very healthy conversation that we need to have all of us in order to kind of mentally handle.
Yes.
A beautiful life.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we all know it's all about social media these days. So tell everybody where they can find you and tell us what you got coming up. You got a pretty big movie coming up with All-Star Weekend with Jamie Foxx, right?
Oh, yes. Let's hope that it's going to be released soon. And that was like absolutely a crazy experience shooting that movie. I mean, first even like then I auditioned, I was like, that was a waste of time. Like, I'm just like, I don't know if I will ever even get this role. But then it shows, like, you know, like, have some faith in yourself.
That's right.
Yeah. And then it's like I went to call back and I see Jamie Foxx standing outside. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to have like a mental breakdown just even in the parking lot. Like, I'm not even making it to the callback at this point. And then they just had such a fun time auditioning. And he's like, oh, would you like to improv? I was like, sure. I was like, oh, my gosh. And actually, right before like that, I was taking like improv, like Second City and all that. So I was like, okay, here we are. Let's see if I can handle that. And then I got called from a manager that I booked the role as soon as I was like kind of getting on the freeway.
Oh my goodness.
And it was like, absolutely, like, I was crying, I was laughing. I didn't even know what to think about that. And then I went to set, and we arrived, and it was like absolutely surreal. It's like I was like before, just to kind of make myself brave enough. I watched lots of videos about Jamie Foxx's performances, and what I saw like just from videos alone, kind of like reinforcing. Then he just goes for it. I was like, okay, this is my chance. Just go for it. It's like, forget about it. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge others. Just, you know, do your job. Here's your chance. And it was such an amazing environment for me to work there, because he really like believed in me and my talent. And people were saying he was showing your audition to other people.
Oh,
and I
wow.
thought they were like saying this like just to make me feel better or something. But no, like he truly like, and he was saying like, I want to really find a talented actor, not because of their social media or their like whatever credits. I just want to find a right actor for the right part. And it was like really meaningful that he thought about me that way. And he did create this environment that he just like totally gives you this, I felt like this freedom, like of creation.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I saw he was very particular and could be quite like determined what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of there will be sometimes even no wiggle room if you like not delivering that. So I saw that side too. So it was a pressure. And I told him that. I was like, I'm scared. He's like, why were you scared? I was like, well, you should see yourself from outside. But I did felt like this amazing support and like just belief and working. I worked with Gerard Butler. And
Oh
it's,
my
like,
goodness,
the first
yeah.
day, like, I saw this call sheet. I was like, Gerard Butler. I Googled it. I was like, maybe it's just spelled wrong. Maybe it's not real Gerard Butler. Maybe it's just like some other Gerard Butler. And that's like, and then I was like, I'm meeting him on the set, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's real.
That's amazing. Well, listen, we don't want to give away too much because it's not out yet. So it's a definite reason to have you back on after the film is released, and you could tell us all about your role and all that, because that sounds like it's going to be amazing. So where can people follow you on social media?
At my name, at Natasha Blasick. Be like boy, Lasick.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, like Logan said, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We had a really great time. And open invite anytime you want to come back and chat, whether it's about projects you're working on or mental health or maybe music, because you mentioned you're a singer. Anytime you want to come back on and talk about anything, more than welcome.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you.
All right, of course.
Lots of love to you. Thank you.
Have a
That
great
was fun.
night. Yes, thank you. Have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye. Oh my goodness, man. I mean, there was a lot we covered in like that short amount of time.
Yeah, and I always love when they're not scared to open up about the mental health aspect of the game, because the entertainment industry, I feel like entertainment industry and mental health hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
They're so intertwined, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people are nervous about admitting that or talking about it. So I love when we have guests on that just dive right into it. So.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Well, thank you again, Natasha, for coming on the show.